What's up, everybody? Kim Becker and Drew Kreisman here for our weekly Colorado Rockies AMA, brought to you by Mile High Sports. The Colorado Rockies, of course, down in Scottsdale, Arizona. Spring training basically starting, has already started. They've had a couple practices, of course, this week, and their first game will be Saturday. Drew, what are you expecting to see out of this team? And can you update us on how their first couple days down in Arizona went?
Yeah, well, to start there, the good news this time of year is almost always no news, right? You want to show up at spring training. You want to see everyone's there. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's got a big smile on their face. It's the best time of year. It really is for baseball fans, for baseball players. Hope springs eternal and all of that. And the good news is, yeah, that the Rockies are showing up to spring training relatively healthy. Randall Grichuk, a little bit dinged up. Looks like he's going to miss the very start of the season, but we even talked about how that could be a silver lining for some young players, and he's probably not going to be out too long. So you've got that a little thing with German Marquez that's kept him out of the World Baseball Classic. But other than that, team's showing up healthy, ready to go, with a lot of exciting players coming into camp. And so, yeah, with the ball games getting started here in just a couple of days, I've definitely got a laser focus on these young players. I love watching Charlie Blackmon and CJ Cron and some of these strong old vet guys hit the ball 450 feet as much as anybody. But we're in a transition phase for this team. This year, as we talked about last time, is really more about next year as anything else. And these young players, who's going to be that new core? Who's going to be that new group who takes this team into the next generation? And the way we think of the last era of Colorado Rockies baseball as being the Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story era, we're going to learn who those guys are now. They're not yet on the team, or maybe we just saw them a glimpse of them at the end of last year. This is the year those guys become those guys, and it starts in just a couple of days.
Well, you're going to lead me right into our first question here then, because, of course, spring training, like you said, starts here in a couple of days. We'll get a really good feel about what we can expect to see. But the World Baseball Classic is also going on here soon. So which are you more excited for?
Oh, this tears at my baseball heart. This is one of those things. Okay, so as a baseball fan, the World Baseball Classic is incredible.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. It's a great celebration of the internationality of the game. I'm not sure that's a word, but I'm pretty sure it is.
It is now.
And and it's real competition. There's real pride. There's guys really going out there. Spring training, as much as I can enjoy it, you really have to throw out 2/3 of the statistics. Half the time, guys are going out there. Like a pitcher will go out and say, "I'm only going to throw my changeup today." And that's not real baseball. It's practice. It's live practice, and I love, as Allen Iverson would have said back in the day, talking about practice. But ultimately, that's what it is. It's glorified practice. It's difficult to know what to take away from it. Where the World Baseball Classic, they're really going for wins there. That's competition that you can't, they say it in every single sport. There's no substitute for it when someone really wants to win, and even for national pride. So I get into the World Baseball Classic quite a bit. That said, if you're a baseball fan that really you follow, you're a Rockies person and you're a Rockies fan and you really care about the Rockies, then there's not a whole lot going on in the WBC for you. Like, we cheer on Kyle Freeland, rock and roll. But this should be a very interesting spring training, as we were just talking about, to get your first look at Zach Veen and Drew Romo. And maybe if you checked out last year for a number of good reasons, Ezequiel Tovar and Michael Toglia and Elihuris Montero and some of these guys who are coming along. So it's like, I personally actually still am more invested in spring training because I gotta follow this team, and I'm very curious about where they're going. But as a baseball fan, it is nice to sit back and watch some guys play their hearts out for their country. It's really cool.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you're following this team. So right now, what's your best guess as to what will be the 5-6 man rotation to start the Colorado Rockies season?
Oh man. Can we just do a big shrug emoji and no, this is okay. So let's put aside some of the little weird things that may be going on. Like I mentioned, Freeland might get a little bit fudged with the Baseball Classic, Marquez, but let's assume healthy, ready to go. Those two guys you're gonna have.
Okay.
That's where you start the rotation. Austin Gomber, who had a very, very rough season last year, but was fantastic in his rookie campaign the year before, I think he's going to get another opportunity here. He deserves one. It was a rough season, but you have a tough time judging a guy entirely on his sophomore campaign. Lefty with great curveball, really good pitch mix, smart guy, advanced feel for pitching. If he can find it, that'll be big for the Rockies, and they desperately need someone to, because I think kind of implicit in this question is the understanding that Antonio Senzatella won't be there to start the season because he's still recovering from TJ's. So he should be back around May. After that, it gets, your guess is as good as mine-ish. It gets a little, hey, we're having some tryouts in spring training. The Rockies brought back veteran Jose Urena, who was fine. He was fine. He was not a disaster last season. And so that's kind of what you're going with. There is an interesting group of young players, Peter Lambert, Ryan Rollison, and Carl Kaufman, who there's some hope and optimism there. The problem is all of those guys have been hurt and seriously hurt, missed big chunks of time over the last 2 years, which, remember, are coming on the heels of a 2020 campaign where there was no minor league baseball whatsoever. So I don't know. You would think, who's going to be the starting rotation? I should know the answer to this question as someone who's followed this team every day for now 11 years. But, after those top three guys, they're really going to have to mix and match for a little while, maybe do some bullpenning, see if these young guys are ready to take over. But
just don't know. All right. Well, I'm not going to say my guess is as good as yours because you've been following this team for a lot longer than I have, at least in a closer spectrum here. So we'll roll with that answer. We'll kind of put that one on standby and maybe revisit it here in a couple of weeks once we've got a couple games under our belt in spring training. But what are the odds Marquez has a bounce back season? This question is from Orange Sunday 77.
Ooh. I like this question because I've spent all offseason and most of last season detailing what's going on with Marquez and if he can get back and how important it is. I have said many times, there's not a more important player on the roster for how this team is going to go the next couple of years. If Marquez does bounce back, the Rockies can maybe salvage this version of the team. They can salvage this rotation. If Marquez and Freeland are going to be strong, they can build around them. They can build around what they have. If Marquez has another year like he did last season, this iteration of the Rockies is done for. You can't continue to try. He has to be, he's the most talented pitcher they've had in a very long time, and he's not yet reached his ceiling. So anyway, this is my long way of not answering the question, saying the stuff that I've said before. The questioner here is putting me on the spot and saying, okay, but is he going to do
yes
it?
Or no?
I don't know. I'll say this. I have long been a believer that Marquez was going to take that next step. And as frustrated as I was with his season a year ago, I think he's more motivated now than he's ever been. I think he rested a little bit too much on his laurels of having been an all-star the year before, of frankly having an obscene amount of natural talent. But the league adjusted to him. The league taught him a little bit of a lesson last year. And I think Marquez is going to come out angry, focused, ready to go, and finally ready to put all that talent together. So yes, I will say Marquez has his bounce back season this year.
All right. You heard it here first, people. You heard it here first, straight from Drew. We love it. All right. We'll move along here. Will the Rockies have a 3.0 wins above replacement starting pitcher in 2023, Drew?
Goes along with that same question. And I'll say yes. Yeah, okay. I'll say yes, it'll be Marquez.
Okay.
I think he'll get back to that place. I think he can be an all-star again. It was, as I was just saying, it was very disappointing and frustrating to see because it felt like Marquez was on the cusp of real greatness, of being a top 10 pitcher in baseball type of guy. And then he just, it just was an ugly season. And every time he took the hill last year, I winced. It was tough to watch. It got that bad. And so, all that said, he's got the talent. He's got the ability. He's got the pitch ability. Yeah, he should do it. And there's even a chance that Kyle Freeland, he, wasn't as far off as people might think last year. I think he was 2.4, 2.6, depending on which version of wins above replacement you're looking at. I think the Rockies rotation, as much as I just wrote on Mile High Sports and gave them a grade of a D because of what we're talking about before, because these two guys, I do think have it in them to get it back and really start steering this thing in the right direction. But it's the question. It's why we've got multiple questions on this topic. Rockies fans are right in wondering about this specific thing because it's what matters.
I have to laugh because it just like makes me sad every time we notion to the fact that this season is going to be such a disappointment, because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. So I'm not laughing at your answers or at the questions or anything. I'm just laughing to keep my own emotions in check. Just putting that out there, everybody. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, this next question, I just love the word that's in this and I'm really excited to say it. For all of the hullabaloo about playing the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants less, will the Rockies actually fare better against the Yankees, Angels, Twins, and other American League foes?
This is a great question that it reminds me, is it Adam Sandler in The Wedding Singer? Do you remember the quote when he does this would have been great information had it been brought to my attention yesterday? Is that this change? I've talked about this for a long time. The Rockies play in the wrong division. And all of these changes that are coming are going to help them immensely.
Okay.
As you just mentioned, though, this year they're not going to be good. I'm sorry, folks, but maybe it'll take them from a 65-win team to a 68-win team. But in the long run, this actually is huge. Okay. Once the Rockies do return to any kind of contendership, had this been the case in 2018, and for anyone who's not familiar with what's going on here, teams are going to play inside their division less. It used to be you play your own division team 19 times, and there are certain teams in the other league, for us in the National League, that's the American League, you wouldn't play certain teams. So it would create essentially a strength of schedule, right? Whatever division you happen to be going up against in the opposite league could be a big advantage or disadvantage versus some of your divisional opponents. Not to mention the fact that the NL West happens to contain two of the all-time basic behemoths of Major League Baseball, being the Giants and the Dodgers. Now that the Padres have gotten into the game of being a behemoth, it's an absolute nightmare out here. And the fact is, when you play 162 games, the division you play in shouldn't have such a massive role over your success or failure, and it oftentimes has. And that's why over the years baseball has added a wild card and then a second wild card and changed the playoff format and all of these things. So, well, on the one hand, I get the question here saying, hey, but that means you got to play the Yankees, Angels, and Twins, but it also means you get more games against the Royals and Tigers and the A's and the Rangers, some of these teams that also really struggle. And so the fact of the matter is the National League West has been, and I wrote about this last year. You can go read about it right now on milehighsports.com. I broke it all down, all the numbers. The National League West has been the best division in baseball comfortably for 15 years. And so on the one hand, you want to say, man, why can't our team just be as good as the best teams? Why can't we just be as good as the Dodgers, this, that, or the other? And I get it. But the fact is it will help in the long run, not having to play 19 games a season against the Dodgers, Giants, and Padres for the reasons that those teams are really good, plus the opposite environments. I could go on and on and on about this topic, and it's actually going to get even better as we look forward into the future. There's almost certainly expansion is coming to Major League Baseball, and almost certainly realignment will come to Major League Baseball. Because the Rockies, from a travel standpoint, going from Denver to California, Denver to the East Coast, back and forth, they travel more than any team other than the Seattle Mariners. And that is also a big thing that's difficult in terms of your body recovery, altitude. Like I said, I've been studying this one for a long time, but the shortest way that I can say it is, yes, playing the Dodgers less often is going to be good for your Colorado Rockies.
Leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Sounds good. All right. We'll shift gears a little bit here. Still talk about some changes. Obviously, some rule changes in baseball this upcoming season when it comes to the time. How will these rule changes affect this Rockies team? And do you think they will help a guy like Charlie Blackmon at the plate?
Yeah, so naturally it should, right? If we're going on the statistics, which we love to do in this game, it should. Will it make a huge difference? As we look at the stuff, and these days it's better to slug than it is to hit singles, and ultimately all this is going to do is help Charlie Blackmon's batting average a bit, and guys like him. I do think I think Carlos Gonzalez should seriously consider a comeback right now. I know he's been retired for a couple of years, but that shift destroyed the last couple of years of his career. Yeah, I do think that they're across baseball. I think we're going to see more batting average and all that's going to be great. For the first half of the question, though, I do think there's an area here where I'm very curious to see. I think the Rockies should have an advantage when it comes to their infield defense. They have an extraordinary group of infield defenders. And with the shift over the last several seasons, a lot of managers have basically been able to hide a lack of quality infield defenders by putting them in the right spot before the pitch is even thrown, right? You don't have to be a great athletic defender if the ball is hit right at you. And that's going to happen a lot less often. You're not going to be able to move everybody over onto one side of the diamond or the other. And the Rockies with McMahon, Tovar, Rogers, and then Cron, who's a pretty good defender at first, but then when they've got Tolia in there, you'll have 4 Golden Glove caliber infield defenders around there who are going to be able to cover a lot more room than other teams who are going to be hurt, I think, by their not being allowed to shift. So I think in that way, the fact that, other teams, it's a weird way to think about it, because it's not that the Rockies are getting an advantage from not being able to shift so much as other teams are going to be at more of a disadvantage because they've been able to mask their lack of quality infield defense, where the Rockies have some extraordinary defenders. So that'll be really interesting to watch and see if it does make a big difference over the course of the season, or ultimately all it leads to is more highlight reel plays, which is still fun.
Yeah. Makes the game a little bit more exciting. And for this Colorado Rockies team, maybe that's what we need, right? So
right.
It
should be for the team, and it should be across baseball. And I was a big proponent. I used to be against this idea of banning the shift. And I used to be one of these old school people that just said, I hit the ball the other way. But man, guys are throwing 97-mile-an-hour cutters these days. Like, it's not so easy as just lay down a bunt or hit the ball the other way, right? We want to see excitement in the game. We want to see base hits. We want to see great defense. We want to see base running. And all of those things are going to be up this year. I don't think that the base running is one area where the Rockies don't have a lot of good base runners. So I don't think they'll be able to take advantage of that. But the other things, particularly the defense, and like you said, it should be more exciting baseball to watch. And it is an entertainment product after a while.
We do need that. Yeah, we definitely need that here in Colorado. All right, Drew, thank you so much to everybody tuning in. Thank you, guys. We will have a weekly AMA for the Colorado Rockies moving forward through spring training and, of course, the beginning of the season. And as the season goes on, I do love this time of year as well, though, because it makes me realize that spring, the season, is actually also right around the corner, and I can't wait for some of those summer days in Coors Field. So, Drew, thank you so much. Have fun covering their first game down in spring training this weekend, and we will definitely touch base next week on that and how everything else is going with the Rockies. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.